when I found out, I was so grateful because that head-on car collision caused a lot of back issues. And I've had a cleaning service for 20 plus years. So you can imagine, like, doing that for that long, my back was just screaming at me, what are you doing? Stop, stop, stop. So to be able to have, this size amount of kratom and sip it throughout me doing my job really helped me.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't have done it.
Welcome to Sacred Space Tampa podcast. I'm Jason, and we're here today to discuss Kava and Kratom, two of the very popular beverages that we serve here at the bar. And with me, I have Juan, of course, Angela, and Carrie. We're all going to sit here. We're going to talk about Kava and Kratom and share some of our thoughts on that. So I guess I'll turn it to Juan to kind of kick off and ask you, Juan, how do you feel now that you've started drinking some Kava and Kratom?
Well, I've been drinking for about a year, a little bit more than a year. Really, my experience with Kava, it's more of like a muscle relaxant. It was fun. It was just kind of a nice thing to kind of cool me down. My experience with Kratom was more profound. My experience with Kratom has helped me out with my mental health. I was able to get over some serious traumas drinking Kratom, open up some conversations, being more social. I was having a very difficult time being from the Northeast, making friends down here in Tampa Bay area. Culture was very different, very much a culture shock for me. And God, I mean, going to the kava bars, I made more friends over the last year than I've made in over a decade of living in the area.
Very cool.
So my experience with kava and kratom has been super positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think same for me with the kava and kratom. Has definitely helped me socially. I grew up with severe social anxiety. Like, I couldn't look anybody in the eye, even my own family members. Sometimes, like, I would just be like, felt like I was going to die in a conversation. So, a lot of places that serve kava and kratom, I find the atmosphere to be more inviting, more open, respectful. Me in my 20s, not knowing, I don't think, I'm not saying how old I am, but 20 plus years ago, Kava and Kratom wasn't around, so there were no lounges or bars that I could go to. So it was the bar, the dive bar, the clubs, and alcohol. And it was not a good scene for any 20-something-year-old. Man, I don't regret anything in my life, but if I could go back and experience to have that kind of atmosphere to be in at 20 something years old, that would have probably changed my whole life. But just being in those kind of atmospheres I've met so many loving people, and sorry mom, but it feels more like family than my own family when I go to these places.
We're so blessed to have it here, and living in Tampa Bay, there's more kava bars in Tampa Bay than there are, I think, anywhere else in the world. So we're super lucky to live here in this day and age where we have an option to alcohol, because Carrie and I both quit drinking a couple of years ago, quit drinking alcohol, and it definitely drastically changed our lives, where we weren't really able to socialize in the same way with the same people, and kava bars were great as a way to kind of like be social, but not like rip our bodies apart with alcohol and tear down our vibration and all that stuff that it does.
And get in a lot less trouble.
Yeah, you can drive on it.
No
you don't have to worry
DUIs.
about DUI. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we started drinking kava probably 4 years ago when we were still using alcohol. And I feel like it was kind of helped each other. Like drinking kava helped give up the alcohol. Like the more that I went to the kava bars, the less I wanted the alcohol. And so eventually it was just made sense to not drink alcohol at all and switch only to kava, and then eventually for me to kratom as well, which I think you started with kratom, right?
I started with kratom before kava bars were a thing, or that I knew about them anyway. And the kratom was something that I think I saw at a smoke shop, and it was just a powder. And so I was like, well, let's see what this does, type of thing. And I tried it, and I really loved the vibe. I was just really energized and euphoric and happy and having these great conversations, and just I felt like it helped me overcome some of the anxieties that I had in doing that. So it was super for me to take that. But when then kava bars came around, and they had kava, and we had kava for the first time years ago, we remembered taking kava as a supplement back in the 90s, because back in the 90s, I remember they had it like GNC. So you could actually
Really?
buy these kava pills,
Pills.
kava pills,
Oh
and it
wow.
was for anxiety, it was for sleep aid, and you just take it, it would like relax you, help you sleep. So it was just like purely like a supplement back then, and I didn't even know that it was like made from a root or anything
Wow.
like that. So it was interesting. Of course, let's be honest, it's an acquired taste, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
because
I
they
like a
make it from
little,
root, and it sort of tastes a
yeah.
little like
I
dirt.
like a little creamer in mine because I don't like drinking dirt.
Same,
But
same. Plant-based.
Bula.
Bula. So bula is something that we say, which I believe is from the Fiji Islands. But bula is sort of like cheers. So we say that, right? When we clank them together, and it's a blessing, basically.
Mm.
Makes your tongue numb.
It does
It
make
does
your
make
tongue a
your
little
tongue numb.
numb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's strong, it'll make your lips numb. Sometimes your face as
Yeah,
well.
the first
Doesn't
time
make
I
your brain numb.
Not
tried,
your brain.
yeah, no, the first time I tried kava, God, it's when I had after my spiritual awakening, and then I started going through a dark night of the soul, which I didn't know was a thing. And I was going crazy, and I was having all this anxiety. So I just Googled meditation near me, and it led me to a local place. And I was like, what do you have for anxiety? And when I get anxiety, I can't breathe. So they're like, oh, we have kava. So I did it, but they didn't tell me it would numb anything. So imagine having anxiety, feeling like you can't breathe, and then the numbness came, and I was like, this is not helping, this is not helping. But then they were like, oh no, the numbness, that's normal. So I do add a little bit of creamer that helps take that numbness out.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And the creamer, actually, it's a fat, so it helps with the lactones, which is the chemical involved in the effects that
Oh,
kava has on us. So yeah, so if
I
you
didn't know that.
drink kava with some creamer, it actually helps it work better
I did not know that.
as an anxiety aid.
Sweet.
Yeah, well,
Bad.
as far as kava is concerned, I really enjoyed my first time having it because it really allowed me to conversate better. So that was my experience with it. I went to a yoga studio. So I went to a yoga, not actually a yoga studio. I went first to I think it was Kava Culture, and it was back about a little over a year now. And I just decided that I'm gonna find people in the city that I can get along with because I just didn't have any friends out here. I just there was a point in my life where I was very much wearing a mask constantly in order just to get by, and I didn't know who my true self was. And then I had a traumatic experience. I had a spiritual awakening, and then I just doing a lot of self help. I just decided I'm going to find people here that I can get along with that have maybe similar spiritual beliefs to me, that maybe have similar things that they like as well as that I like. And I went online. I was like, you know what? I like yoga. See this free yoga somewhere. Kava Culture had it. Young lady named Gabby was doing a class, and I went there, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Kava was a big part of that. She gave us the drink. Gabby's very fun, very playful. So she was, young lady. She was like, "Okay, everybody, this is Kava. It's not psychoactive. It's not psychoactive. Okay, and it's from the island of Fiji. From the island of Fiji, and they drink it out of coconut shells, so forth, so forth. We're gonna hold up a go, bula, bula. I'm like holding this thing in my hand, like, what the hell is this? Like, bula, bula. I'm drinking. I'm like, oh, that's gross. What is this? Oh, I'll just drink it anyway. I'll try anything. So I was like, whatever. I drink bourbon. I do that. So I was like, I could drink bourbon. I could drink this stuff. So I did it, and we're walking down to Sykes because Kava Culture is right downtown Tampa, and walked down to Sykes and ran from the building, laid out a little yoga mats and everything, and I just looked up at the sun. I was feeling good. I said, I feel so good right now. And that's what started it for me. And she was right; it wasn't psychoactive. It was like not even a high, but it was like a muscle relaxant. It just made me feel relaxed. But then it also opened me up conversationally.
Yeah,
I was able to go back to the bar after the Kava bar, after the yoga class, and I was able to talk with people in a way that I wasn't really able to ever really talk to people who I didn't know. And I was very open. I was very conversational, and I was thing that really hit me the most. I was me in those conversations.
Nice.
I wasn't putting on a mask. I wasn't putting on an act. And then the nice thing was people reciprocated.
So powerful. Right. Yeah, when you take that mask off and you just be with other people that also have the mask off, I think it's a certain type of anxiety that it reduces, but it's that anxiety that we have around other people to like really just be ourselves.
Yeah, you stop looking, trying to look through the eyes of them at yourself. You know, like Jay Shetty said something in his book. He was quoting someone, but he says, "I'm not who I think I am. You're not who you think you are. I am who I think you think I am."
Yeah, I lived in that fear for so long. So long.
And I have to say personally, these drinks, these medicines have really helped me leave that kind of mind state behind. You know, so it's a fun social drink for sure.
Yeah.
But also it can have a profound effect on you, I guess, depending on where you're at.
Profound, for sure. That's a good way to put it.
I think, you know, when you're drinking alcohol, if you're out in the bar and you're drinking, you think, oh, it's making me relax and I can talk to people more, but you're not yourself, just like you were saying, you know.
Yeah, you're putting on an act, aren't you?
And also when you think about the conversations that you have when you're drinking kava with the people, with other people that are drinking kava that also aren't in that altered state, are so much deeper, and so much truer, and stay with you longer than the goofy shit you do when you're drinking alcohol.
It's almost like a question of lucidity. Like you're more lucid on kava than you would be on alcohol. So like when you're lucid and aware, you can say things that actually make more sense. Like if you look back at the conversations that you have on kava, like when we look back on this video, we'll probably say, well, this is a fairly intelligent conversation. You know, we were articulate, we spoke our minds. Now, can you imagine if there was bourbon in here? And maybe this wouldn't be so articulate.
My liver might not like that too much.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's another. I'm sorry, Jason. I can relate to that so much. Like back in the day when I would go dance, I couldn't get up and dance in front of people until I had my third shot. And then I was like, oh, now I could be myself. No. And we've had experiences here where we've seen people not be themselves that kind of accidentally walked in on alcohol, and we look back and we're like, oh, that's what I looked like. But with Kava and Kratom, I'm able to be more myself, be more authentic, be more genuine, but it also lasts when I'm not drinking it. I can, when we have events here, I can get up and dance, and I know I don't need those 3 shots of alcohol. I don't even need this. It does help, but it's also like kind of a teacher. It shows you like I can relax you so you can be open in a conversation, but it teaches me that I can have these conversations with people
so beautiful.
Even without it, because I am worthy.
Yeah.
that's the beauty of kava because it has the same effect on your limbic system that alcohol does, right? But without the deterioration.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was researching it, it was saying that it releases the dopamine, it releases the serotonin, um, but it doesn't attack your hippocampus like alcohol does. So alcohol damages your hippocampus, so it makes your memory go away. That's why you black out and stuff like that. You drink as much kava if you want, you're not going to black out,
Right.
you know. Um,
And you don't want to mix alcohol with kava. Just want to sneak that in there
that's definitely true.
because that will damage your liver for sure.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, the people that you become friends with in these communities are deeper friendships too. You know, when I used to drink, I would think I thought I had friends, and then looking back, I'm like, I didn't have friends. I had drinking buddies.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I have friends, and even if I don't see them every day, I know I could a dozen people that I could call anytime and say, hey, I need you right now. They would be here.
And guaranteed, if you stop drinking kava and kratom, they would go on
Yeah.
still being your
Yeah,
friend.
exactly.
You know, unlike alcohol, where, you know, if you stop drinking, like you're stuck in the mud and people don't want to hang out with you if you're not going to the bar with them.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I personally, I've lost people to alcoholism. I've lost 2 family members, 100% to alcoholism. I mean, it's such a painful drug. We was having a conversation about it once. Well, the meaning of alcohol in Arabic is yeah, and it means like cut one's soul from your body, and that's basically what it's doing, you know. And I was watching a YouTube video where this gentleman was explaining, well, really he was questioning why is this legal and so many other mind expanding drugs illegal. You know, what kind of control are you under being disconnected from your soul? And then the more you disconnect it, the more the body thinks it is in control. And then that's what leads to so many problems, such as anxiety and depression. And this is how we fall into situations of like a rat race and believing the only way to be happy is money. So there's a lot to drinking alcohol that maybe even more so than just we're just destroying our bodies.
There's a reason it's in the mix, the Matrix mix, right?
Right.
We're going there.
There's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for everything. I feel like, but like, there's got to be a reason why alcohol is legal, and let's say magic mushrooms are illegal.
Right.
You know, because it's a war on consciousness. They don't want you thinking outside the box. They want you to wake up every day, go to work, you know, be in that sort of like that rat wheel, you know, that hamster wheel that keeps you going and keeps society going. And alcohol is an important part of that because alcohol is the reward system. And it's a reward that doesn't cause you to think outside of the box, outside of the matrix.
Yeah, I remember when COVID hit severely the first time and they shut everything down and only essentials were open and all the liquor stores were still open. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
what?
for sure. I remember a kava bar closing down because of COVID mainly, you know.
Wow.
So that was a rough time for everybody. But yeah, like it's interesting to look back at that and think, man, they deemed alcohol as an essential product.
Yeah.
Pretty messed up.
Well, that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
And it's, you know, it's meant, I think, to dull us. But the one thing I noticed about kratom and kava is that I think it excels us versus what alcohol does. So I mean, both liquids affect our body in a similar way to alcohol, as far as things it releases, even endorphins with kratom. But without that destructive effect, without that losing who you are, without it basically numbing you to the point where you don't remember what you did the next day.
Yeah, there's no forgetfulness. There's no blackouts. There's no inability to drive a car. There's no making stupid decisions. It doesn't affect your ability to make decisions.
And while there are risks to kava and kratom, which we'll talk about later, it's not killing you. It's not going to kill you. If anything, if used correctly, I believe it enhances your health.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're hydrating, I feel like the number one drawback to kava and probably kratom as well is that they are diuretics, and so like as a diuretic, you just got to make sure that you're monitoring your water intake. You know, eating fruit is a really good way to get structured water and hydrate your body. But you know, coconut water or water, you know, as long as it's good spring water, will hydrate you. So that kind of balances it out. And so if that's the worst thing, you know, in drinking kava that you have to worry about is drying out, you know, and you just got to be mindful about it and take the precautions to drink water. And that's why we have a water dispenser here at Sacred Space, because we want to make sure everybody has enough hydration.
So you own Kava Bar, right?
Kind of,
So,
yeah.
well,
There's a kava bar here.
there's a Kava Bar
Yeah.
here within the space. Um, what inspired you to want to have a bar that served Kava and Kratom?
So I think this sort of stems back to Kava community, which was a couple friends or a friend of mine, and he brought in another guy as well, who the three of us launched what was going to be a mobile Kava and Kratom business. But we would meet here on Tuesdays. Remember, it was every Tuesday we
Oh,
would meet
wow.
here and we would like discuss the business. And the guys absolutely loved hanging out here, and I think they loved hanging out here more than they really loved like the idea of actually going through and starting the business, because that never really went anywhere.
Oh,
But the
wow. I
whole
didn't even
thing was
know
a
that.
genesis really that kind of started this idea of let's brew kava every week. Let's, you know, have these things available, kava and kratom, and sit down and have these great conversations. And it felt really good and it felt natural, and I got really good in the process of making the kava and kratom. So kind of tweaked the whole, you know, recipe over time and got really, you know, efficient with it. And it became a natural thing just to do that. And so when that whole thing kind of went away and failed, like it, I was really well set up. We were really set up to kind of take that next step. And then we went to Aqueous Connection in Spring Hill, which was a nice little event where we got to vend kava and kratom and my orgonite as well. But the Kava and Kratom was a big hit. Like we met so many great people. There were people coming and they were sitting down in the tent and just having these great conversations with us, and it felt like really natural again. So we're like, you know, let's go ahead and do it. We got this backyard space. You know, it seems like it's really conducive to people feeling relaxed and chilled, and it's got a good vibe to it apparently. So we kind of went in that direction a year ago.
So you was already pretty much involved with Kratom and Kava, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why you decided to start this business with it. So you was already drinking it and like maybe like a year or a couple of years before
We were
you
drinking
decided
it for 3 or 4 years before that.
before.
Yeah, so we were
That's cool.
really well accustomed to drinking it. We weren't as well accustomed to the business side of it, to the making of it, to, you know, how to run a business
Okay.
about it. So that's all stuff that we were kind of trying to learn as Kava community. Um, but you know where that ended, we kind of picked up from there with Sacred Space Tampa, and just took it from there. A little bit different concept. Obviously, we're not on the road. We're not, you know, working from a truck.
Right.
We're working from here.
Yeah.
So, which I like because I think I would burn out on the road
I
traveling.
am so
I'm happy.
thankful
Yeah.
that you guys decided here, because I can remember laying in my bed thinking, oh man, I wish there was a spot I could just go hang out and chill, maybe have some kava or kratom and not have to drive all the way over to St. Pete. And I would just lay in bed thinking about it. And then I got invited to an event here. And then I walked in, I was like, this is what I manifested. Like,
Bless,
thank you.
Well,
Like,
thank you.
yeah, and it's
You've
just
been one of our biggest supporters and cheerleaders, and really shared the word with so many people. And you know, we can't thank you enough for that, because this community is about a lot of things, but it's also about growth and growing in a natural, organic way. And when you talk about it in the way that you do, it really spreads the word in a good way.
I have to. I have to, because I feel like this is family like I was never shown before. This is community. This is true unconditional love with everybody who walks through the door here. And for me to hold that all to myself would be so greedy. So I feel like I want to announce it to the world because everyone deserves to feel unconditional love, and that's what you feel like when you walk through these
Very
doors.
cool. So that's what makes it different than other kava bars for you.
Yes, 100%. Because I've been to them and they're nice. They're nice, but I never had the connection with people that I have here.
Great. Wow. I really appreciate that. Such kind words.
Yeah. I mean, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, what about you? Do you feel the same way, or do you have any ideas about what's different from other kava bars that you get here?
Well, really, what I'm curious about. Well, first of all, this place is amazing. I mean, I've seen your praises all the time, and I've sung it here on this podcast. While we're doing this podcast, I mean, this place is incredible. This place has become my family center. But what I'm really curious is about is everybody's kind of kava or kratom origin story, right? Like you don't have to share it or go into anything deep if you're not feeling it, but like that's why I was asking that question because like it's always interesting to me why do people start drinking kava or kratom? You know, like I was talking to Daryl and he just went in there because he wanted a Starbucks, but it was a pandemic and it was closed. They went to the soup station, and it just all started there for him. For me, it was I wanted to find a community, you know. So I don't know if anyone else would want to share why they started drinking Kava Kratom and how maybe it affected their lives.
What would you say?
You pulled me in. I mean, you were drinking
pressure.
kratom kind of at home before we ever started going to kava bars, and I had tried that first iteration of kratom was not very good. I was not a fan at all. It was powdered and it made me nauseous, kind of, which we could talk about later because I know some people will say that they've tried kratom and it makes them sick or they don't like it. So we should come back to that. But anyway, we started going to a kava bar down Soho, somewhere down there.
Yeah.
And
At Chiller World.
yeah, it was just kind of a different vibe. You know, it was. We would go Sunday mornings. Actually, we would go and just kind of chill out and hang out and chat with people. And then over the years, just as more and more kava bars popped up, let's go check this one out, check that one out. And even when we go out of town, when we travel now, we'll go find if there's a kava bar somewhere. Cool. We traveled to Asheville last summer and we found a couple kava bars there and went and talked with people there and actually ran into a lot of people that we knew from St. Pete in Asheville at the kava bar. So, I mean, I think since then I've started drinking kratom as well, only after Jason started brewing it here at home because he makes it differently than most of the kava bars that we go to, and it is easier on your stomach, easier on your mind. Like I don't feel nauseous. I don't feel like it's too like wigging me out. So I like it now because it relaxes me. I feel social and it's just better.
So I would like to, if it's okay, because we are singing his praises and it is amazing. It's affected all four of our lives. But like with anything that's powerful, any powerful medicine, there's risks. There's risks to drinking kava. There's risks to drinking kratom. Like, what are some of the things we would want people to know about drinking? Let's say starting with kava, that maybe some risks that they should understand, and so they can also mitigate those risks.
The two risks that I know about are that with kava is that kava should not be consumed with alcohol. That's a contraindication because they both put a strain on the liver. And then the other contraindication is just that it's diuretic, which means it's going to kind of suck water out of your system. So you want to make sure you rehydrate. So as far as I know, that's it.
Yeah, kava is pretty safe drink. Like you said, even from the things I saw, it was basically those two things. You know, it's hard on the on your renal areas, your kidneys, your liver. Um, and there are some other rare cases I saw, but we're talking about like 1 in a million cases of people's memories being affected. Um, there was also a case of people breaking out in rashes, but
Mm.
those are like when I was looking online, they were A, like here and there, and then B, it seemed like they were kind of propagandists. Like some of the videos I was watching, like they were trying to get you from like the purpose of the video was don't drink kava,
Yeah.
you know, and so then it was like
Clickbait
this is
stuff.
why look at this person with this rash on his back.
Yeah, well,
But then
that's
when you look
any
deeper,
supplement.
Right. If
Like
somebody
you-
has a rash, it's
yeah.
probably a personal allergy. Like you could get that from
Yeah,
anything.
that's
So-
true.
right? And that was another good point that was brought up. There was like anything that you partake in has a risk. They, you know, like I was listening to Joe Rogan Experience. He was saying he was talking about kratom. He says, you know, if you drink too much water, you'll die.
Mhm.
So there's risk with anything that's involved. But definitely that was a good point, though, Jason, with the idea that it is very hard on your system, as far as your renal system, as far as your liver.
It's
So
not.
you should not.
It's not very hard. Only when if you're drinking it with a lot of alcohol would it be very hard on your liver.
Yeah,
So
right. That was a point I was
Combined.
going to
Yeah,
make.
if you're
That is very
combining
hard
it, yeah.
with the alcohol.
Right.
Right. So that and yeah, like you said, make sure you're drinking a lot of water along with it.
I just want to say for me personally, like I haven't researched it or anything, but I notice when I drink or not kava, kratom every day, and then I stop, I notice, because I get really good dopamine hits when I drink kratom. But then when I stop, it's like, okay, now my mind and body is trying to re-regulate itself to give itself the amount of dopamine. And I'm not a scientist or anything, so I don't know much about it, but I do notice I have to take breaks. So I'm not dependent on this making me happy all the time. So when I do kind of stop drinking it, I don't go from here to here.
That's good.
And,
That's
and
good
I
that you're
don't
taking
drink
breaks.
like a lot. I'll buy like one or make one and sip it throughout the day. But there has been times where I've kind of over consumed it, and then when I came off of it, I noticed it was harder to just regulate my own emotions naturally. So
Everything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, being aware of that is good, so that if people start drinking, and they know to be aware of that it can have that effect.
Yeah, anything that you are substituting one of the body's functions for, like even if it's chapstick,
yeah,
the body
Yes.
stops producing the wax
Yeah.
on your lips if you use chapstick all the time. So it's like
watched a video on that.
Afrin
So true.
too, like the stuff you
Right,
spray
I
up
was
your
thinking
nose.
that
Like
too.
there's all kinds of stuff like that where it's doing something that the body would normally do, or giving what the body needs without forcing the body to make that thing, is going to force the body or tell the body, oh, you don't have to go ahead and make that anymore.
Like
So
melatonin.
yeah,
or
melatonin.
something. Yeah.
So the same is true for dopamine and serotonin, which are the feel good receptor like chemicals. So yeah, I think it's probably a good idea if that's the way it's impacting you to take breaks. So.
I would say too, if you're gonna drink kratom, it's a good idea to make sure that you have eaten something to put that
That's a good point.
barrier in your
Always
stomach,
eat.
because that's in my personal experience, and I've witnessed a lot of other people. If you have not eaten, it can make you feel a little nauseous.
But from personal experience, I would especially say if you're drinking the powder.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because the powder, it's like this fine particulate, and they try to filter it out with those filter bags, but it doesn't really take, I don't think, much of the powder. It's so fine. It's like a micron size.
And it still doesn't.
And so it comes through into your drink, and then you drink that, and like your body has to process this, and I think it processes it differently than it does like a tea. Because when I brew it as a loose leaf tea. And so like the loose leaf tea is easy to filter out because it's actually pieces of leaf. So only the chemical, the Mitragina speciosa, is coming through, not the particulate. So I've never gotten sick from that. But I still say to people, have you eaten? Make sure you eat, because I think that's always a wise counsel to anyone before they have anything like this.
Yeah.
But it's, I would say, especially true if you're drinking the powder. And if you're drinking the powder out there, maybe you should consider the loose leaf tea. Just saying.
Yeah. And not the opposite of when we used to go out to drink alcohol. Oh, don't eat anything. Then you'll be stronger. No, opposite. Eat, drink, enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in moderation.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking of kratom, are there any other risks of drinking kratom?
So kratom has the, um, I guess, the tendency to cause mild addiction. And the addiction tends to be what we just talked about, the dopamine, serotonin, you know, gets fired off when you have your kratom. And if you do that all the time, it probably reduces the body's tendency to make that stuff. And so it can put you in a bit of a low without taking it. So it can feel like psychologically addicting, but it's not addicting like its opioid counterparts, which people well know those things are extremely addictive physically as well as psychologically. So, when you have people that are, maybe they hurt their back and they were prescribed pills, and then
You
those
said it
ran
right.
out.
Kill pills.
Kill pills, right? And then they run out, and then they're like searching for stuff on the street,
Mm-hmm.
and then that turns into a full blown addiction, right? And then so we had this whole opioid epidemic not too long ago. We were just talking about before we started filming, and we still do.
Mhm.
And honestly, I feel, well, yeah, that is a consideration about kratom, is that the other side of the coin would be that there's so many people that really need to step down from those heavy opioids
Mhm.
Yeah.
and have an alternative that is, much less concerning, much less addictive, that actually can help you. And so there's been so many success stories of people kind of leaving that world behind and coming into the world that we know now in the Kava and Kratom scene, if you will, like the Kava bar scene. Yeah, we've heard so many of those stories, and they're great stories. They're really good, encouragement, I think, for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, with kratom, there was definitely a huge controversy a few years ago, right, where they were trying to make it illegal, Schedule One drug of all
Yeah, the
things,
FDA was trying to make it Schedule One.
and it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. It still is illegal in most states
No,
currently. It's not.
it's
Okay.
it's legal except in there's like 2 or 3 states,
Five.
and there's, is it 5? And then
Five
the
states.
county of Sarasota here in
Oh,
Florida.
really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, they're missing out.
They are. They are. What they're missing
I
out
was
on is
just
the
there. I'm
revenue
glad I
too,
didn't take a kratom with me.
because all the kava bars have moved just outside city limits in order to set up shop, so they're not getting the revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. With kratom,
Wow.
those were the things I saw too. Similar also to kava, it can affect your kidneys and your liver as well, depending also on how it's brewed. One thing that I saw, and that was pretty much it. Yeah, it can be addictive. It does have a psychoactive effect. It does go to your opioid receptors. That was pretty much all I really saw for that. These drinks do have risks, but they seem to be mild risks.
Yeah, I
Especially
can. I'm sorry for interrupting, but
but it's
I
okay.
just.
But to finish my point was, especially in comparison to the benefits that you can receive.
Yeah, and that's what I want to touch on, because I can definitely relate to the 2006, 7, 8, 9, and up opioid crises. I was personally right in the middle of it. I was in a head-on car collision, and I had a lawsuit going, and the doctor said, if you want to win your lawsuit, you have to go see this chiropractor, get this lawyer, and you have to go to pain management. I had to go to pain management. I had no choice. I didn't know. So I'm doing what I'm told to do by the doctors. And then years later, here I am addicted. I have little children that I'm not properly taking care of, and my life is literally falling apart, just falling apart. And thankfully, my mom saw this and she Marchman acted me. Thankfully, so I went through the system and I got.
Marchman Act is it similar to Baker Act?
It's where you go in front of a judge and say this person has an addiction, a drug addiction, or it can be alcohol. And so it has to be like your mom or your dad, like a family member that goes in front of the judge.
I see.
And then they just come to your house and arrest you.
Wow. So that happened to you?
That happened to me.
Wow.
So I went through, it was about at least a year of my life going through the system.
Just from doing what you were told to do.
I thought when I went to court, I was like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm going in with my prescription, and I thought I have a prescription. And he looks at me. He's like, Miss Williams, did you know that your doctor was here 1 week in front of me? Like 1 week ago, he was right here in front of me. So he was allowed to go back to his office and continue writing scripts to me and other people while I got thrown in jail for using what he prescribed to me. But I say all this to get this point across. I wanted to quit, but I was so terrified of those withdrawals and that torture that it puts you through. If I had this to even go to, 100% I would have gave it a try. You know,
it wasn't an option for you at that time.
I had no control of what I was doing. It was literally the first thing I thought of. It was every second of the day. This is what I need to just get out of bed and function. But thankfully, the Marchman Act time period did work for me, and it clicked. I was like, I'm never going back to that lifestyle. I didn't need kratom to come off of it, although I can definitely see how it could help people because it is not it's not as addictive. It's something to ease that pain, and anybody that has ever been addicted to anything, you know what it feels like. And then people are on the outside looking at you like, why don't you just stop? Look, you have your kids, do it for your kids. And you know that you can't just do it for your kids or anybody because you're out of control. You have zero control. So if I would have had a choice, if somebody would have said, here, drink this might help you.
Yeah.
I would have definitely said yes.
It's powerful, and that's really good testimony, as far as like the upsides, I guess, of what it can do or how it could have helped you. Mm-hmm. And the comparison is pretty drastic, right?
Yeah, sure.
But we it's true, we do or did still see a very big effort to vilify kratom in the press, and among the medical profession and in politics. It became a political football for a little while, and I think it was subject of a propaganda campaign where there was an effort to characterize kratom as deadly, and they under kind of suspicious circumstances, there were a lot of articles coming out that attested that there were a lot of people that were passing away as a result of kratom. However, the deeper dive into it reveals that those people often were coming off of heavy drug use like heroin, and they had those drugs in their system when they passed away. More often than not, most of the time. Mm-hmm. And I think you were saying there's only 7 deaths that the CDC had isolated as just having kratom in their system, right?
Right, and that was a good segue because I did want to bring that up because if you're online, you're just doing some Googling, and you're going to see right. Kratom causes deaths.
Yeah.
So,
according to the CDC, the worst.
156 deaths where people had it in their system,
along with other substances.
Yes, 91 deaths that the coroner or the medical examiner said was caused by kratom. Out of those 91 deaths, kratom was the only thing within their system. This is also backed by the.
I thought you said it's only 7.
Whatever I just said is supposed to be 7 for actual deaths.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was the only thing in their system.
That was the only thing in their system. Now that also is backed by the so that was the CDC. Also by the Food Drug Administration. There's, I believe, last year, 36 deaths, and then there was 2,500 adverse situations, means basically someone was put into the hospital or they had a serious health condition due to kratom. Um,
Do we know
so
how many people died from the opioid crisis?
no, we don't.
Millions.
But
For alcohol.
so
Right.
Or alcohol on a weekly
Right.
basis?
so so basically, anyone that does go online and sees that, what is the answer to that?
I always respect people's ability to make decisions for themselves, and I don't try to necessarily sway people's opinion in one way or the other, but I do provide context, and I will provide information if it comes up in conversation. And I think a conversation like this, if anyone were to be sitting in and participating in it and heard the information that we shared and still thought it was too big a risk, I would say, fine, then it's too big a risk for you. Don't do it. Like there's no one saying that you should do it. But for me personally, I feel like it's very safe in moderation. I have no qualms. And it's 21 and up here in the United States. So at 21 years old and older, you should be adult enough to make a decision on whether or not something is something you'd want to put in your body or not. So I feel good about that. Like, people have the internet, they have the capacity to do their own research. Yes, the internet can be sort of skewed, especially when it comes to things like this, where there's I feel like a propaganda machine behind all the negative publicity. And I've seen it too. I've seen a ton, but I've also seen stuff on the other side, scientists on the other side that are saying other things about it. That it doesn't cause death. That it's a great way for people to come off of addictions. That it's mild. That it's not an opioid, but it hits the opioid receptors
Right.
in the brain. So there's a lot of things to kind of counter those arguments. I don't feel like, since I'm not a scientist and I haven't researched it, I'm not really the guy to do it. But I would say that, it's important to always do a deep dive into research and to look past the first 20 or so hits on Google, or maybe go to another site than Google, because Google seems like sometimes it's a little sus as far as the information that you receive.
Look at who's funding the research as well.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
CDC and what was the other one?
FDA.
As far as those numbers go, like, that seems like nothing, like you're saying, compared to the deaths of opioids and alcohol. Like, if you ask the same question, how many people die every year from alcohol? And then how many people die every year from kratom?
Which is legal, right? Alcohol completely legal. The one thing that alcohol does have that kratom doesn't have yet is regulation, and I think that a lot of us that are kind of in that field, if you will, or serve it, or have a kava bar or whatever, maybe sell it. There's the question of regulation, right? Because it is kind of the wild, wild west as far as kratom is concerned. It's seen as a supplement by the U.S. government. It is sold as a supplement. There's no health claims or dangers really made about it. So you can just buy it. You can buy it online, and that can be dangerous. I think that's probably the most dangerous part of kratom, because you've got some suspicious people selling it. They might be overseas. They might have no regulation internally that maybe they're contaminating their stuff, or maybe that there's heavy metals or lead, or you don't know what's in it. So that's the danger. Plus, they're making it super strong. Some of these extracts are like 20, 30 times the strength of regular kratom. And that's where you get into a danger zone with it, because regular kratom taken regularly by regular people is not going to kill you. It's when you get into those situations where someone is probably unaware of it, of what it does, or just not very tapped into their body, and taking an extract which is many times stronger than it really should be, and there's no regulation to say this shouldn't be allowed, there should at least be a warning. There's no warnings. There's nothing. So right now, in an unregulatory status that we have with kratom, there are there are more dangers, I would say, than a regulated type of situation where if the government wants to play an active role, I think it should come in and regulate,
Oh yeah, for sure.
but
And
not
there's a call out.
overregulate.
And there
Yeah.
seems to be a call, definitely not overregulate. There seems to be a call on both sides for regulation. How many people would you say countrywide partake in kratom?
I don't even have a guesstimate, to be honest, but I
Millions.
know that it's got to be in the millions. Yeah.
It's millions of people. So millions of people versus 150 for over two. This study was taken over 2 years. Well, those stats were on CDC was taken over 2 years. So millions of people versus 156 fatalities,
And that's just in the
and
U.S.
and that's not even the ones that were saying that it's the only substance in their blood. There's seven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they
Seven.
got some kratom from
Suspicious
somewhere
people.
with whatever in it.
The
I
extracts are
wonder-
crazy. I'm telling you, like they
I
don't
wonder what
feel
that
normal.
what that number is for alcohol.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, you can go to the CDC's website and find out the statistics on alcohol deaths year by year basis.
I would
If
definitely
they
recommend
break it
people try
down
that.
to a daily death rate, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Not
I
funny,
mean,
but
not just
yes.
deaths, but look how many people
Well, the irony is
suffer
funny.
other health issues long term leading before they
Yeah.
die from it.
And how many
like,
marriages have been destroyed
Yeah.
by alcohol? How many jobs have been lost by alcohol? How much productivity has been lost by alcohol? There's so many negatives for alcohol, yet it remains legal
profitable.
and very profitable. But I think kratom could be equally profitable,
Mm-hmm.
and if regulated, treated in the same way, perhaps it could be a blessing for a lot of people to know about it and use it.
Do you think it would make the price go up if it
It
started to
typically
get regulated?
does because the price is a result of costs on the front end. So when you have regulation, especially like the U.S. likes to overregulate, but like if you have regulation, it's the path that they pass the cost down to the consumer. So yeah, the price is going to go up for sure, but probably not a ton. I wouldn't think.
I think that's a good place to maybe start wrapping things up a little bit. Yeah. So my big takeaway, and this is something that I guess I know a little bit about because I've been drinking it for the last year and how it's affected my life and some of the research I did for today. I think kava and kratom overall are very positively, and not just someone who partakes in this community, but I think objectively. From the points that we made. And Angela, thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable with us and sharing that very personal story. Really appreciate it. And just hearing your story alone, yeah, if kratom was popularized, if it wasn't, as you said, a political football during those years,
Yeah.
I mean, how may of your life have been different?
Yeah, I would have definitely been able to get my kids to school on time or get up and cook them something to eat because it would have been more available than having to wait till my next doctor date because I always ran out way before doctor date. But if I could go somewhere safe and get something that was going to get me through the day, I would have been up, taking care of my family, feeling normal.
Did you still have pain? Were you still experiencing pain from your auto injury?
Oh yeah, the opioids made the pain 10 times worse.
So that's another thing we didn't even talk about is that kratom, that's one of the things it does is it helps alleviate pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's different veins of kratom. The green vein is with the one that I've always been told helps alleviate pain most. So if you ever have like massive pain, I myself, after COVID, I had long COVID, but like during COVID, it was very severe for me, and I ended up getting an allergic reaction that like closed my throat to ibuprofen
and Tylenol.
and acetaminophen, right?
Yeah.
So those
Instead
two,
of
those two things would close up my throat, and I was like, "What am I going to do for pain?" Like, I had to go to the dentist and stuff like that. So luckily, I had kratom, and I could take kratom, and that really helped out a lot.
And
So
that's when I found out I was so grateful because that head on car collision caused a lot of back issues. And I've had a cleaning service for 20 plus years. So you can imagine like doing that for that long, my back was just screaming at me, "What are you doing? Stop, stop, stop." So to be able to have, this size amount of kratom and sip it throughout me doing my job really helped me,
yeah,
or I couldn't have done it.
we didn't touch upon the history of kratom or kava, but real quick, kratom comes from the South Pacific, and in those like island nations where it was grown, it grows naturally and stuff. That was like something that they would give to workers. The workers were they would increase the motivation of the workers, get them to work harder, and then the pain that they felt from working those hard long days, the kratom would help take the pain away.
Yeah.
So
And
it was
mentally too, for me, it was easier. It was like, okay, scrubbing this toilet isn't so bad because I was just like euphoric and just kind of
yeah.
lifted up and
So it's a
not
good
in
mental
pain.
mindset.
It
Yeah.
got me through the
Speaking
days.
of that, a lot of people use it as take the place of coffee, especially white kratom.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it
Adderall.
gives you energy.
And Adderall.
Mm.
Because it does give you that motivation and that clarity of thought, especially the white vein kratom.
Right.
I've used it too, where like during work, like I would work a boring job sometimes, like everybody does, and like sitting there in front of the computer is not always a fun times. But having that like helped me dial in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I diagnosed with ADHD since I was a child, and I can definitely say when I drink white kratom, when I first started drinking kratom, after I got over the whole "woo, I'm high" kind of kind of feeling,
Yeah.
I started using it for that.
Yeah.
I started using it for work.
Yep.
I started going to the kava bars, setting on my laptop, and I would be focused for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Off of one single white kratom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
And,
it's natural too, which is a better alternative than Adderall.
Yeah.
We knew somebody who was on Adderall for over 20 years, and he like quit, and then he had to get to know himself again. It was like a major thing for him that he had like kind of lost 20 years of his life to Adderall.
Oh, wow.
And he had to figure out how to live after quitting and starting his life anew. So I mean, it's not the best drug really, especially long term for people with ADHD or ADD.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was lucky enough when my mom saw me. I'm old enough to been on Ritalin, and when I was a child, I was available back then.
Yeah.
And she saw me stand on the middle of the soccer field, motionless. I remember the scene. I felt like a zombie. I felt like I wasn't in my body.
Wow.
And so I was a very hyperactive kid, still hyper now. And so I went to the car. My mom is super big advocate on pharmaceuticals or whatever. She's an RN the whole life. If you're prescribed it and take it. And she looked at me through her rearview mirror. I remember it clearly, and she said to me, "Juan, you're no longer taking the riddle." And I'm so happy she said that.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to think. I mean, I'm not saying we minister to children, but nonetheless, something like that versus how I feel when I drink a white kratom and I can sit there cognizant in my own self. I'm still me, but now this is helping me focus. What a difference.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. And by the way, I haven't had the white kratom tea in a very long time. But just to notice to the community, I have ordered it and it's on the way.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's my favorite.
yeah, so and it's the tea, right? So it's the loose leaf tea, it's not the powder.
Yeah.
So that's rarely available from the vendor I get it from. So I was happy to find it. And I ordered it.
I just wanna add in too, like you're saying the different strains do have different effects.
Right.
But also I know for me, like the red is supposed to like calm you and make you more relaxed.
Yes.
I get super like, rah!
Yeah, you get
That is
energized.
interesting.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
can be a person based thing.
I
Like,
think so
Sure.
too.
yeah,
Sure.
so just maybe if you want to try experiment for yourself, oh, this color, that color, and you can even mix them to get a better effect.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the full spectrum. I have that a lot of times, and I'm serving that quite a bit. Like we kind of go back and forth between green and full spectrum here usually. Have you
Mm.
guys had any? Do you have any feedback on the full spectrum? How does that impact you?
Honestly,
Which
for
one is
me,
this?
it feels a lot like when I drink white and green together. I'm not sure what the red effect to it is, but I personally have an adverse effect towards red. I get antisocial. I just want to go to bed when I
Really?
drink red. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
it's so funny. First time I discovered that I was at Ritual. I was talking to a gentleman, and he was definitely feeling his Kratom. He was just sitting there like this, belly out, and right under the couch, staring ahead. And I
That's
was
an
like,
interesting way to feel kratom.
and and so I'm looking at him, and so I'm like, man, I just drunk that red. I just want to go home and go to sleep. He looked at me. He said, really? Man, when I drink red, all I want to do is talk.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's like having 10 cups of coffee. I'm just like, blah, 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 blah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so
So-
interesting. Well, I know people with ADD and ADHD have an opposite effect to coffee a lot of times. So I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's
maybe
true.
that has something
That's
to do
me
with it.
when I drink coffee.
Yeah, that might. Because I only know one other person where it affects me the same way, which is Andrew. We all know Andrew from Ritual.
Yeah.
He's the only other person who I know, and he's the one that got me on white and green because that's what he drinks.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I tend to love that mix. That just does it for me.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we can maybe hook that up for you, a white and green mix. Give that a try. One other thing that I want to sneak in before we go is the history of kava.
Well, honestly, Jason, what do you want us to know about Kava Kratom that we haven't said so far? Let's start with the history.
That's
Because
really it.
It's
I
important
feel,
that they come here and partake. They gotta know what they're getting into.
yeah, and it's sort of like
I
an
mean, we
isolated
sell
thing.
Kava and Kratom here.
So yeah, so I
Come to
think
Sacred Space.
Tampa.
We have Kava and Kratom and live shows. That's coming soon. Anyway.
And great people.
great people for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what
also
it's all
have
about.
snacks.
And vegan food.
Vegan food.
So, the history, because it's so important to talk about. I feel like it gets glazed over or not even mentioned most of the time because we have our own way of doing things in America, right? America, we tend to change things around. We get rid of the ritual. We get rid of the ceremony. We serve it up in a nice, neat little package. And that's kind of what we've done with kava and kratom, but more so kava. Because kava has a deep and steep ritual and ceremony behind it. It was the drink of kings. It was royalty, in the South Pacific seas, right? So, it comes from the island of Vanuatu originally, and it kind of branched out from there, where you had a lot of the island explorers would take kava with them on their boats when they went and explored out. They would take the plant, they would take the kava itself, and they would take their ritual. And then when they came across another island, this of course is a long time ago, but they would share their kava with the king of that island, and share with them their customs, share with them their particular brand of kava, and it makes friends. So it has a long history of making friends.
I mean, I think it's important to note how it was served.
It was served in a very different way. So the way that it was served back then among the island people was that they would take the kava, the kava plant is actually a pepper variety. It's a variety of pepper tree.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
That's why it makes your mouth numb.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So
But it's not spicy.
It's not spicy
No.
really. Some of it's a little spicy. But, so they would take the root. They would cut the root. They would dry the root. And then they would take the kava, and they would share the kava with the king of the island. And then when they came across other islands, they would share their kava with the king of the island. And then when they came across another island, they would take the kava with them on their boats when they went and explored out. They would take the plant, they would take their ritual. And then when they came across and then they would stomp the root in these rituals with the warriors of the tribe, stomping on these kava roots, and then they would take the stomped on kava root and they would dunk them into coconut water or cold water, and they would just keep thrashing it in the water in these tanoas, and then they would also take it and chew it and spit it out into the tanoas.
Well, tell them what a tanoa is.
A tanoa is a huge serving bowl that's carved out of wood. That's a traditional serving bowl for kava. So I mean,
So it was a community drink. So
it was
sitting
very
in a
much
circle
community
around
drink.
the
Yeah,
tanoa.
and people would take
Sharing.
their coconut
Oh.
shells, and then they would
So just kinda
strain
dip it
it
in and
with
get that
coconut husk, right? So the whole thing would that the gnash from people's mouths, the stomped on root, all that would get strained out through the coconut husks, and then they would drink in a very ritualistic way, which Bula was a part of that ritual,
Right.
where they would clap and then receive from the taki the bowl, and they would drink, and then they would clap twice, and everyone would say Bula. Maybe not that exact order, but something like that.
We need to
We need to re-up on that.
Yeah,
that,
we need
that
to have,
tradition.
reach out to the Kava vendor.
Yes, for sure. Shout out to the Kava vendor, Max, wherever you are.
Should probably do another one of these, just talking about the history of Kava and Kratom.
Yeah, it's interesting, but mostly the Kava has a very interesting tradition of bringing different island nations together.
Yeah,
and
so cool.
There's Kava plants all over those islands now because of this.
And it's still doing that to this day, bringing
you have
us
the friendships
together.
being created.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Beautiful.
the essence of what it was back then is still present today. In America, we're still, making friends over Kava. We're still like letting down our guard and allowing friendships to arise.
Like not for nothing, I met you at a Kava bar. Just saying.
Go.
This is the famous Angela. I just blew up your spot. Sorry. It's like,
Famous.
oh, speaking of friends, look at this. This is my friend Jason. I made a friend, guys. Look at him. Right there. He exists.
This guy's awesome right here. You've been a part of Sacred Space, a huge part of Sacred Space now for months. How many months have you been coming here?
Since March.
Since March. Okay.
3 months.
It seems like longer than that, though.
Thank you, sir.
You've become a big part of our community.
Well, I have to say, you made me feel like family since day one. So thank you that much. And I love you very much for that.
Love you too, brother.
Same goes for you.
Carrie thought I was
Love
a
you.
bitch on day one.
That was before Kava. That was
before I
before
gave her
Kava.
Kava.
Oh, we're just letting all the dirty laundry out today.
We love each other now. We do. It was just my anxiety.
That's gonna be really
Just
loud.
anxiety.
I was patient. I was like, what is this person's story? But you had some Kava, you chilled.
Yo,
The F
everybody's got
I'm
that
sorry.
resistance, you know?
What were you doing, Angela? Nothing.
I think everybody sort of has a little bit of resistance at first, to warming up to people.
I
And
was scared.
even though we try to cultivate a vibe that's friendly and loving and family, it's still hard for some people to kind of let their guard down, be a part of this, and just be natural. And I think you just had your guard up a little bit. You didn't come across as bitchy. I showed you lots of, care and attention and affection.
Which you do with everyone.
Yeah,
Well,
who
but
shows
I-
up.
You're very attentive.
Thank you. But I knew that that's what was going on for you.
Aw.
Sacred space.
I knew that was going on for you. So I knew that like a little bit of care and attention is all that it took. And some kava to bring
Yeah.
through.
So, I don't know.
I love you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just got a little emotional. That's weird. Okay. The point I wanted to make was that is true about resistance. Even when I first came in, I've been coming to, when Angela brought me here back in March, I was coming to Kava bars for about a year. But then when I came here, when I was going to Kava bars, I always felt welcome. I was making friends, we was talking, but it was like, I guess, kind of superficial in a way. I didn't realize it. When I came here, it was like, welcome home, brother. You're home. This is family. I'm like, oh shit. Where am I? Who are these people? Is this real? Is this real? Is this real?
You're pinching yourself.
I'm tapping her like this okay. This is fine. This is the way I feel right
and
now.
I would
like,
grab your hand.
and you'd be like,
it's okay.
okay.
You can trust me and these people. well.
It has a very calming effect over
There's a saying in
Right
the
on.
Kava community that it's among the Kava bars, it's not competition, it's collaboration.
Indeed.
I love that so much because I
Yes.
think a lot of times what you have with other businesses, especially Kava businesses, if Kava bars think of themselves primarily as a business first, they can, and
Yep.
their owners are remote or not involved, then sometimes you can have that sort of attitude from a Kava bar where they're not really embracing you like family. It's not
Yeah.
people first.
Yeah.
But we had a different take on it. So I think that's what you guys are picking up on. Kava community, which this sort of was the genesis of Sacred Space. We definitely focused on that, and we tried to unite the Kava bars. We wanted to create a calendar among all the Tampa Bay Kava bars so that everybody that wanted to do something fun that was non-alcoholic and wanted to do something at a Kava bar had a one-stop shop to like go and check it out and say, oh
That sounds
well,
fantastic.
this bar's doing that bar's doing that, like, and plan
Mhm.
your weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I hope
yeah,
that
that's
happens. That sounds fantastic.
yeah, agreed.
But after that first night, even during that first night, I eased into this place, and I've never felt more at home anywhere else except maybe the home I grew up in my life. So no, truly thank you for providing this space, not just for me, not just for Angela, but for the whole community. And this community is growing.
I think that's an important piece is that the kava bar, although we have a kava bar here, we serve kava, we serve kratom, we have other non-alcoholic drinks as well, but it's a piece of our place. It's
Yeah.
not.
We
It's
don't
It's
call it
not
a Kava bar.
the main attraction.
We call it an event space, and now we're starting to call it an event space slash retreat center,
Yes, indeed.
where we're welcoming people in from all parts of the world, really. So it's an experience. There's a lot of practitioners that come here. They're a part of our family. They're a part of this community that have so much skill and love to offer. We're talking about Joe with his breath work and Chloe with her yoga and her sound bowl and cacao
Evelyn.
ceremonies. Evelyn, I mean, there's just so many people that bring such, powerful healing modalities that make sacred space what it is, that we want to be able to offer that to the larger whole, to the larger community.
Yeah.
So we're starting to look at this now as a retreat center as well.
Very
But
exciting.
but we are partly a kava bar, and we do love kava and kratom, and we do consider a plant medicine,
Yes.
both of them.
Right.
I
Well, I mean, I
100%
think
agree with
it's
you on
partly
being a medicine.
healing, right? Sorry,
That's
that it's. I mean, we're focused on health and wellness, right? So what we talked about, kava and kratom helping people get off of alcohol or get off of opioids or whatever. But the other things that we have here are also part of growth and health, right? Wellness, that physical, spiritual, mental health, even just creativity, right?
Yes,
We're
creativity.
focusing on all those things and all those aspects of our own personal journeys. So
Yeah.
this is just a
Yeah.
piece of it.
Healing
There's
through
a-
music, healing through meditation. I mean, healing can take many different forms. And that's really what we're all about, healing through all these different modalities.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of art, one of the things that attracted me to these places is a huge amount of artists within this community.
Yeah.
It feels like pretty much everyone is an artist.
Yeah. I believe that everyone is an
Yeah.
artist.
That is true for sure. We all come from the creator, and therefore, thus, we are all creative.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're creators ourselves, and
Yes.
it's just how much are we blocked?
right.
You know,
yes.
are we open to just try to do art? And that's why I wanted to do this art night on Sundays. Maybe Sunday wasn't the best night to do it, but I love the idea of just
Yeah,
getting
me too.
people in
I
front
love
of
it.
like a blank canvas and just tell them, hey, it's cool just to try. You know, it's not
Yeah.
even their stuff. They can just go ahead and make a mess. It doesn't matter because it's about the process. It's not about the finished result.
Yeah,
and
sure.
and
about the
art can be
play.
healing.
Playing.
The playing,
Mhm.
exactly.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll start wrapping it up. Is there anything else anybody want to say about Kava, Kratom, their personal experiences, or just about the brews themselves?
I just feel very blessed to have this community. Um, it's not just about kava and kratom. It's like the perfect potion of everything that goes on here that I promise you has got me through so many tough times. And this place has taught me how to even accept and love those tough times. And then to use that as a ground to grow from, like to plant my roots in there and just grow. And there are no words that I could
can't
say,
even tell you
but
how
this.
thrilled I am to hear that. It's like music to my ears, our ears, and it's a big reason why we're doing it. And we're just loving to see you both and everybody grow and flourish and blossom into the people that you're becoming. It's super exciting for us, and I think the whole community. We're all watching each other grow and
Yes.
help and support that, walking each other home, as Ram Dass said.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Walking each other home. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it for today. We'll address you guys. Thank you for joining us again. We really love you all. We really hope the best for everyone. We hope to see you all if we haven't seen you already. We do this podcast out of love. We do it for education. Yes, it's fun, but we really want everyone to have one thing in their lives, which is well-being and happiness. So thanks again for joining us for another week of Sacred Space Podcast here in Tampa, and we'll see you soon. God bless.
And Bula.
Namaste. Mbula.
Bula!
Spill some
That
out
was
for
a
the
good thing.
homies.
Yeah, for those who ain't here. And break.
Great job.